Have you ever wondered why dogs bark at other dogs? It's a question that has likely crossed the mind of anyone who spent a fair amount of time around our four-legged friends. The sight of a dog barking at another dog is as common as a bird in the sky, yet the reasons behind this behavior can be as varied and complex as the dogs themselves. You see, for dogs, barking is more than just noise. It's an essential form of communication. Just as we humans use words and body language to express our thoughts and emotions, dogs use barking to convey a wide range of messages. From a simple greeting to a stern warning, each bark carries its own unique meaning in the dog world. But what prompts a dog to bark at another dog? Well, there's no one-size-fits-all answer to that. Dogs are individuals, each with their own unique personality, experiences, and triggers. Yet, there are some common themes that emerge when we start to delve into the reasons behind this behavior. For instance, dogs might bark at each other out of excitement. A dog park is like a social club for dogs, and barking can be their way of saying, "Hey, look at me." On the other hand, some dogs bark as a way to establish dominance or assert their territory. It's their way of saying, "This is my space and you better respect it." Some dogs might bark out of fear or anxiety, while others might do it simply because they're bored. Remember, though, that these are just broad strokes. The specific reasons why a dog might bark at another dog can be as unique as the dogs themselves. So, the next time you see a dog barking at another dog, don't just dismiss it as noise. There's a whole conversation happening there, a canine chatter of sorts that we're just beginning to understand. So, are you ready to explore this intriguing world of canine communication? Let's dive into the scientific reasons behind this canine chatter. First off, think of barking as dogs' way of speaking. Now imagine you're in a room full of people who speak a different language. You might pick up on a few words or phrases, but for the most part, you're in the dark. That's kind of how we humans are when it comes to understanding the language of bark. Barking is a dog's way of communicating with the world around them, including other dogs. It's their version of our spoken language, with different tones, volumes, and frequencies carrying different meanings. Yes, you heard that right. Dogs have a whole language of their own, and it's time we understand it a little better. So, let's dive into some common types of barks and what they mean. First up, we have the alarm bark. This is a dog's way of saying something's not right here. It's typically a series of sharp, high-pitched barks that signal fear or a perceived threat. It's their way of alerting their pack, which includes you, by the way, that something unusual is happening. Next, we have the attention-seeking bark. This is a dog's way of saying, "Hey, look at me." It's typically a continuous, repetitive bark that only stops when they get the attention they're seeking. It can be a call for play, a demand for food, or simply a plea for some good old-fashioned petting. Then there's the play bark. This is a dog's way of saying, "Let's have some fun." It's usually a series of light, high-pitched barks accompanied by a wagging tail and playful body language. It's their way of inviting you or another dog to engage in a game or some other fun activity. So, as you can see, a bark is not just a bark, it's a complex language full of nuances and subtleties that allows dogs to express their feelings and intentions. It's a language that, with a bit of patience and understanding, we can all learn to speak. So a bark is not just a bark, it's a complex language. One of the main reasons dogs bark at other dogs is territoriality. Now, you might be wondering, what exactly does that mean? Well, in the canine world, territory is a significant concept. Much like we humans feel protective of our homes, dogs too have a natural instinct to guard what they consider their own. Dogs are descendants of wolves, a species known for its strong territorial instincts. These instincts are deeply ingrained and have been passed down through thousands of generations. So when your dog barks at another dog passing by your home, it's not necessarily because they're being unfriendly. Instead, they're simply communicating a message in the only language they know. "This is my territory. Keep out." You see, for dogs, barking is a multifunctional tool. It's a way to communicate, to express emotions, and yes, to establish territory. When a dog perceives another dog as a potential threat to their territory, they'll often respond with a bark. This bark isn't just noise, it's a clear and deliberate message. It's your dog's way of saying, "I'm here. This is my space. Respect it." Even within your home, you might notice your furry friend has certain areas they are particularly protective of, perhaps a favorite spot on the couch or their cherished doggy bed. When another dog approaches these claimed areas, your dog may bark to signal that they're encroaching on their territory. In essence, a territorial bark is a dog's way of setting boundaries. It's an expression of their instinctual need to protect their space and their pack, which in many cases includes you. It's a fascinating glimpse into the primal world of canine communication and the complex social structures that govern their behavior. So the next time you hear your dog barking at another dog, remember, they're not just making noise, they're communicating. They're asserting their presence and protecting their space, and they're doing it the only way they know how, through their bark. So when Fido barks at a passing dog, he might just be saying, "This is my turf." Another reason dogs bark at each other is for social reasons. It's not all about territory or aggression. In the canine world, barking serves as a multifaceted means of communication, much like how we human beings use words and tones to express a range of emotions and intentions. Have you ever noticed how a dog's bark can change depending on the situation? That's because dogs have their own language, a language of barks, which they use to communicate with one another. A dog might bark in a particular way to signal that it's happy and wants to play. On the other hand, a different kind of bark might express annoyance or tell another dog to back off. Imagine this. Two dogs meet in a park. One of them starts barking in a high-pitched, playful manner. This isn't a bark of aggression or fear. It's more like a dog's way of saying, "Hey, you seem fun. How about a game of fetch?" This is what we call a social bark. Social barking isn't limited to initiating play, though. Dogs also use it to communicate their moods. A dog might bark to show excitement when a familiar person or dog approaches, or it might bark to express anxiety when it's left alone or finds itself in an unfamiliar setting. It's fascinating, isn't it, how a simple bark can convey so much information, so many emotions. It's a language that's unique to dogs, a language that we, as their human companions, are still trying to fully understand. So the next time you hear a dog bark, pause for a moment. Listen. Try to understand what it's trying to say. Is it a bark of warning? Is it expressing fear or discomfort? Or is it simply a social bark, a friendly hello, or an invitation to play? Remember, every bark has a story to tell, a message to convey. And as responsible dog owners, it's our job to understand and respond appropriately to these messages. So, sometimes a bark can simply be a friendly hello or an invitation to play. While barking is a natural behavior, excessive barking can become a problem. It's important to remember that your dog isn't trying to annoy you or the neighbors. They're simply communicating in the only way they know how. But when it becomes too much, there are ways to manage it. Training is a crucial part of managing excessive barking. This could mean teaching your dog a quiet command or using a time-out method. In the case of a quiet command, you reward your dog when they stop barking. The time-out method involves isolating your dog in a quiet and safe place whenever they bark excessively. The goal here is to associate silence with positive experiences and excessive barking with a less desirable outcome. Socialization is another key element in managing barking. Dogs are social animals and can learn a lot from interacting with other dogs. If your furry friend is barking excessively at other dogs, it may be because they feel threatened or unsure. Regularly exposing your dog to other dogs in a controlled environment can help reduce this fear and uncertainty. Dog parks, obedience classes, or play dates with other dogs can all be beneficial. Mental stimulation is often overlooked when it comes to managing barking. Boredom can often lead to excessive barking. Just like us, dogs need mental stimulation to keep their minds sharp and occupied. This could be anything from puzzle toys to hide-and-seek games or even training sessions. Remember, a tired dog is a good dog. It's important to note that these solutions are not quick fixes. They require time, patience, and consistency. It's about understanding your dog, their needs, and their way of communicating. And remember, it's always okay to reach out to a professional if you feel overwhelmed. Remember, understanding why your dog barks at other dogs is the first step to managing it. It's all about communication, and once you've cracked that code, you'll be well on your way to a more peaceful home. So keep at it and don't lose hope. Your dog is worth the effort, and they're relying on you to help them navigate this big, noisy world. So to sum up, we've journeyed through the fascinating world of canine communication, understanding the language of bark. We've explored the concept of territorial barking and how dogs use their bark to set boundaries. Similarly, we've delved into social barking, a way for dogs to interact and communicate with each other. And finally, we've discussed some effective strategies to manage excessive barking. Next time your dog barks at another dog, try to figure out what they're saying. It's a bark, but it's also a conversation.